Hello guys, welcome back to another video, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a full review of the 2023 Audi RS3 Sportback 8Y generation. Now, I've done two videos on this car. I've done a full overview showing you the exterior and the interior. And I also have done a driving video. And this video is kind of a two-in-one full proper review, you could say. Now, I think the Audi RS3 is the kind of car that strikes the perfect balance, which is how I titled this video. Because compared to its competition, the BMW M2, now I know that the M2 is a sports coupe, it is not a hatchback, nor a four-seater sedan, and the Mercedes-AMG 45 are its direct competitors. While those cars are great, what they compromise on is comfort, and this is where the Audi shines, because Audi has a philosophy with their RS cars to set them up for being able to be comfortably driven in day-to-day life, and that's what the RS3 does so well. Not only do you get a unique engine setup, its legendary 2.5-liter 5-cylinder turbocharged engine coupled with a 7-speed S-tronic dual-clutch gearbox and the quattro all-wheel drive system, but it's also actually a comfortable car to live with every day. Now, if you get the adaptive damper setup, which you should because it enhances the ride quality of the car, this car feels like a normal Audi A3 when you leave the car in efficiency mode or in comfort mode. The suspension in this car is actually surprisingly comfortable. It's probably by no means stiffer than a normal Audi A3's adaptive suspension setup, but for an RS car, it's comfortable. And once you want it to feel sporty, you can set the car in dynamic mode, and this adaptive suspension setup will stiffen up, and the car will become a beast that you want it to be. So the car actually can be comfortable for everyday driving when you need it to be, but also dynamic and sporty when you want it to be, which is a great mix. Also coupled with the fact that the steering in this car is not too heavy. It's heavier than a normal A3 steering, but it's not too heavy for everyday driving. It gives you enough resistance to feel the road ahead and feel engagement with the car without actually being too heavy to remind you that it's an RS product. Although the Alcantara steering wheel does a good job of reminding you that you're driving an RS product. In fact, the steering balance is, I would say, perfect. You don't need it to whack it into dynamic mode. You can leave the steering in comfort, and it has enough resistance to feel engaging even for sporty driving. In terms of noise insulation, I'm driving on relatively well-paved roads, and it is quite a well-insulated car. You can happily do 130 kilometers an hour on the highway and have a normal conversation with your passengers. And you can tell that this car is well insulated because the doors have a very solid feel to them when you close them, so that is a good sign. And then when driving every day, you still have a reminder that you have a 2.5-liter 5-cylinder engine underneath your bonnet. It's a nice, pleasant sounding engine, even when just driving slowly, not necessarily pushing it to its limits and driving it for pleasure. In terms of fuel economy, the beauty of the 2.5-liter 5-cylinder engine is you get one more cylinder than a conventional inline 4 and half a liter more displacement, but it's still more economical than a 3-liter inline 6 found in the M2. So you get this nice balance of, well, performance and fuel economy. On the highway, I average about 8 liters per 100 kilometers. And on city driving, around 10-11 liters, which gives you around a range of 560-570 kilometers on a full tank, which is around 350-360 miles. So pretty good fuel economy for this kind of car, if you ask me. My Mercedes A-Class gets around the same. Well, okay, the A-Class actually gets maybe 20-30 miles more on a full tank, but that car has half the engine displacement and one less cylinder. So for this has almost double the engine displacement and one more cylinder, and still manages to achieve the similar fuel economy as a normal Mercedes A-Class. Now, this car probably has a bigger fuel tank, which is how it manages to do that. But nevertheless, it's still much more economical than a BMW M3 per se. Now, the gearbox in this car, it's well set up. Again, Audi went with a dual clutch S-tronic system, which is great because it's good for daily driving. The gear changes are smooth. The only problem is when setting off. The gearbox can be a little bit slow to respond once you set off, but once you do set off, it's smooth. So gear changes are smooth and it's relatively fast for dynamic driving. Upshifts are generally quicker than downshifts, but you know, in this kind of class of car, you don't expect a super fast, hyper fast gearbox. So gearbox in this car is pretty good. In terms of throttle response, the power delivery is quick. It's relatively smooth, not as smooth as maybe BMW's inline 6-cylinder found in their M2 and M3s, but it's pretty good. The only trouble again is the initial throttle response. Once you set off from the start, there is a slight delay in the throttle response, unlike found in the BMW M2 and M3, but it's a slight delay. You kind of get used to it, your brain works around it, so you kind of deal with it. Now, in terms of dynamic fast driving, the RS3 has some tricks up its sleeve. Compared to the predecessor, the 8V, the RS3 has a clever torque vectoring system on its rear axle called the RS torque splitter. And what that does is it can split the amount of torque sent to the individual rear wheel based on the conditions. If you're turning into a left bend, it will send more power to the right wheel, which is the outermost wheel, to make sure that you get around the corner as quick as possible and to reduce understeer. And the system does work well. It does minimize the understeer significantly compared to its predecessor, the 8V. Also, what that allows you to do is in the driving mode settings, you can enable RS torque rear, which essentially is Audi's name for their drift mode. So that allows you drift this car around, essentially a four-wheel drive drift, which is what the Volkswagen Golf R has as well, and the Mercedes A45. The car also has two other driving modes: RS Performance, which is the most aggressive driving mode for track days, for like setting the fastest lap times, and then you have RS Individual, which is a customized mode. You can customize it, set the steering, set the brake response to your liking. Speaking of brakes, this car's brakes are pretty good. You can optionally get carbon ceramics, but even the steel brakes have good brake pedal feel to them, and they respond pretty well to input. So you know what you're doing with your brakes when you drive this car around like a hooligan. So how does the RS3 stack up with its competitors? Well, it is down on power compared to both the M2 and the A45. It's down by 21 horsepower compared to the A45 and around 60 horses compared to the M2. But it is still no slouch. The RS3 is a quick car, and frankly speaking, 400 horsepower is more than enough power for everyday driving. You do not need more power in a car unless you're someone who has access to the Autobahn and you constantly drive down the Autobahn, or you do a lot of track days. But for everyday city driving, 400 horsepower is more than enough, and it gets that power going in around 3.5 seconds. In real time, Audi claims 3.8 seconds, but testers managed to get it around 3.5. So it is a fast car by no means. And yes, you can get the M2 with a manual gearbox, and that car might be probably more engaging. The M2 can't fit all your stuff in the trunk. Well, it can probably fit a set of golf clubs, but you're going to be able to fit more in this, along with 4 more passengers. Well, 3 more, 4 with a squeeze, comfortably well enough to take them on a road trip or just to drop them off somewhere. And you're going to be able to do it in more or less comfort, considering that the RS3's adaptive suspension is just set up well, whereas the A45's is still geared towards sporty driving. Therefore, the suspension system in that, while it is also adaptive, is just too stiff for everyday driving. And with the driving out of the way, let's now take a look at the rest of the car. So let's talk about the exterior design of the Audi RS3. So compared to the standard A3, you have a more aggressive front look with a black masked bumper, which I like to call it, which all new Audi RS models have. And frankly, I think it complements this car very well. Complementary, of course, you have the RS3 badge, more aggressive bumper, tinted headlights, wider wings at the front, black wing mirrors, which you can get with a block optics package. I like these side air vents, which I believe are not real. They don't feed any air, but still they look cool. Wider side skirts and a wider rear arches. Now, for the RS3 model, you can get these Y-spoke wheels in black or in like a diamond cut finish. I think this is the best looking car in its class, without a doubt, compared to the E45 and the BMW M2. And I think it's one of the best looking RS models out right now. Now, Audi did facelift the RS3 8Y with a more aggressive look. Tell me what you think in the comments, but I think the pre-facelift just looked better overall. And it is the same story at the rear. So the rear isn't as aggressive as the front. Of course, again, complementary, you have the RS3 badge in all its glory. And it is in the old-fashioned style RS badge, not like the new ones that Audi have been rolling out recently. Although they did fix that with the RS5, the new RS5 went back to the old badges, which is good. You have a more aggressive bumper with this fake plasticky vents, which I don't like. I wish those were real. And of course, complementary, you have the more angrier diffuser with the oval RS exhaust tips. Now, optionally, you can get a sports exhaust, which this, I believe, does have because it has the holes inside. So yeah, I think it's a good looking car all around. Now, optionally, you can get also, well, in the UK, they call the carbon black package, which basically gives you a carbon fiber roof spoiler. But I don't think the car needs that. The car looks good as it is. This kind of body kit would suit like a Mercedes A45, baby. But the RS3 has like that perfect balance of like aggressiveness and without being too aggressive. It just has enough aggressive lines, but also soft lines to really give it that perfect look. Now, jumping inside the RS3, you're greeted with a familiar cockpit if you've been in the Audi A3 and S3 of the 8Y generation. It is a very Germanic layout, I would say. You have these two air vents here, faced right at your face, like in a Lamborghini Urus. Then you have this angled infotainment screen angled towards the driver, which makes the cabin feel more sporty. And then you have two more air vents for the passenger. It's just a very Audi-esque design, like the straight lines, very simple and straightforward, which I like. Now, compared to the standard S3 and A3, the RS3 option, you can get two interior packages. You have the Kyalami green interior package, which Audi calls the Audi Sport Green Interior Package Plus, I think, or something like that, which gives you green elements on the interior. Or option, you can get the red, which is what this car has. And you may want this option if you want an Alcantara rim, because with these packages, you get an Alcantara steering wheel with a 12 o'clock dead marker, which is very nice. It just complements this car so well. Although the disadvantage of Alcantara is it does get grubby after some time, so you may want to look into leather if you prefer longevity. Now, what Audi fixed with the 8Y generation compared to the previous is they gave the RS3 some nicer pedals. These are galvanized, which is nice. The previous one had plastic, so it just gives the interior a bit more of a premium feel. But for a car that costs £65,000, is the interior premium? Well, not really. I mean, if we start touching some materials, this is soft plastic. This is all soft plastic, which is nice. Like it's all solid. Don't get me wrong. Like it's all solid. There's no rattles or creaks, but the materials could be a bit nicer. Although you do have to be fair, this is based on a standard Audi A3, so I don't expect it to be really much nicer than that. What is nice though is you get these nice quilted Napa leather diamond stitched sports RS sport seats, which just make this car feel way nicer than your equivalent Volkswagen Golf R. And you have some microfiber Dynamica here on the door inlays, some soft faux leather. This grab handle is made out of plastic, but it's nice plastic. It's high quality plastic. This armrest is made out of leather. It's nice and soft, and it's adjustable and extends. You have some cup holders here, which are poppy outy. They're not the best, but they do the job. Piano black at the center console, which I don't like. It scratches, it looks grubby after some time, it leaves fingerprints, but all cars do that nowadays. You have a wireless charging tray with 2 USB-C ports, and then you have physical climate controls above your driving controls. So that is nice. I like that the Audi A3 still has physical climate controls, and these are nice climate controls. They have a very nice feedback and click to them. Easy to use, much better than the BMW 1 Series. Now, in terms of the infotainment system, it is Audi's MMI 3rd gen, I believe, which is, it's all right. It's not the best in the on the market. The BMW's iDrive is probably better. Same with Mercedes' MBUX, but it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is what you're going to be using the most. What is nice though is the digital driver's display. Audi has the best digital driver's display, and this one's no exception. It shows you all the info you need in a very nicely laid out and clear manner. You have a heads-up display, which is not the most advanced. Newer and modern cars have much more advanced heads-up displays, which are more configurable and show you more info. This one, not so much, but it shows you the main bit, which is your speed and your traffic signs. Now, in terms of space, this cabin is relatively spacious except for headroom. Now, because this car has an optional sunroof, my headroom is a bit tight. I'm 6 foot, and as you can see, I'm almost touching the ceiling. Now, I can lower the seat. This is the maximum low setting, and as you can see, I'm almost touching the roof liner. If you don't option the panoramic sunroof, you would probably have more headroom, so that's something to keep in mind. But other than that, yeah, the cabin feels relatively spacious. You have these sun visors, which are made out of this cheap material, like all cars, but they have a vanity mirror with a light, so that's nice. You have reading lights, which are LED, that's also nice. And overall, I mean, yeah, this cabin is a nice place to be. The glove box is relatively spacious, and it is lined with felt. That is very nice. The Mercedes A-Class doesn't have that. Door pockets are relatively spacious. The armrest is spacious. Now, one of the things I like about the Audi A3 and Audis in general, they have very solid doors, both at the front and at the rear. I guess it's a Volkswagen Group thing, but I noticed Audis have a very solid door closing sound, which is a good thing. You want that in a car. That means the car either has good soundproofing or it has nice high quality metal. And Audis always get that on point, so that's something they do better than both Mercedes and BMW actually. But anyways, rear space. So this seat is set in my driving position. I have good knee room. relatively good foot space. I can sort of stretch my feet underneath the seat. Headroom is okay. I got about 4 fingers of headroom. And yeah, it's relatively comfortable back here. I can do a journey back here, no problem. In terms of materials, the plastics are a bit harder than they are at the front and the rear. Again, you have here this dynamic microfiber inlay, faux leather or soft touch plastic for your armrest. Door pockets are relatively good size. Bang & Olufsen speakers here and here. You have a grab handle here, which is damped. That's nice. And a coat hanger. You also have an armrest, which is nicely lined with leather. And you have 2 cup holders here, which are not covered, but you have enough space around them for your elbows. You have 2 air vents with temperature control, no vent control, a 12-volt socket. Now, optionally, you can get USB-C ports, but this car doesn't have them. I think they should be just standard. These nets, standard Volkswagen Group nets. And overall, yeah, it's pretty comfortable back here. I like that the RS theme extends back here. So you have these, again, red stitched diamond Napa leather seats, which are nice. And again, red seat belts with RS treatment. And I like that the headrests in this car are adjustable at the rear. The A-Class has fixed headrests. These are adjustable, so the rear passengers can be more comfortable back here. And in terms of trunk space, let's open the trunk. This is an electrically operated tailgate, which is an option, but it is frankly nicely to have. Just makes your car feel more premium. The A-Class doesn't have that as an option at all. So you have a load cover, which is a standard load cover. And then the trunk itself is 380 liters, which is reduced compared to a standard A3, but it is still relatively spacious enough for your golf clubs. And you have an adjustable boot floor. You can raise it or lower it. And underneath the boot floor, you have your battery, your tire repair kit stuff, your first aid kit, your tools, and your subwoofer if you have the Bang & Olufsen sound system. Now, the rear seats do fold. I can demonstrate now. You have to go back around and fold them, but they do fold like just like that. 1 and 2, if I can find a release. There we go. They are split folding, so you can have through loading if you wish to carry longer items without sacrificing 2 seats for your rear passengers. So yeah, trunks wise, this car is very practical. In conclusion, what do I think of the Audi RS3? It's a overall great package, which is what you want if you have a 1-car garage situation essentially. It's a car that's relatively fun to drive. It's engaging. The only drawbacks, I guess, is the throttle response and the gearbox response. Sometimes, I don't know if it's the throttle or the gearbox. Either 2 of these things can be a bit sluggish, but everything else is great about this car. You have a nice sounding engine, all-wheel drive. Now it is a Haldex system. It is front-wheel biased and only engages the rear wheels once, depending on the conditions. But still, it's all-wheel. A lot of the cars in this class have this kind of system. As I said, it's comfortable, it's practical, it looks good, it has relatively good tech. The interior is relatively well built. And for £65,000, I know RS for an A3, for a spicy A3, it might be too much. But then again, you're not just getting a spicier A3, you're getting a spicier A3 with a spicier engine, a unique engine. Last of its kind. Audi is the last manufacturer of these kind of engines, because Volvo, nobody else makes these engines anymore. Volvo used to with their Polestar series, but they discontinued that long ago. So really, Audi is the last manufacturer of these kind of engines before they're going to be phased out. So really, you're getting this car not because of its looks, but because of its engine as well. It's a unique engine setup that you're just not going to find anywhere else, with a very cool sound. And I think that's what makes the RS3 so worth it compared to its competitors. Don't get me wrong, the A45 and the M2 are great cars, but I would rather have this because of the way it looks and because of this sweet 5-cylinder. So that's been it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.